everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I wanted to bring you this series that I'm calling Interview With The Narcissist, and I have here with me as my guest a person who was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. He has chosen to go by the name Joe, which is not his real name. And we're going to be covering a lot of information, which is why I've decided to break it up into a couple different videos. Can you talk about that a little bit more, what you mean by that, and maybe give us some examples or a description of what you're talking about? Maybe you have an example that illustrates the particular thing you're talking about so that people listening can get an idea.
Well, like I stated earlier, as far as arguing about money all the time. Everything was taken care of, but yet they always argued about money, constantly. Even when they had it, they would argue. My parents, it's weird actually, the way that I grew up, there was times where my parents would argue in agreement with each other. It was actually kind of amazing almost, but I mean, it's just, you don't really think about it until you look back and you're like, oh my God, dude, what did I grow up in?
You've mentioned that before during our conversations. What does that mean? They argued while they were agreeing with each other. Can you give an example, or what does that mean? Because I don't understand what that means, and I'm sure no one listening understands either.
I'm sorry, I mean, it's really not funny. Sometimes you gotta just laugh at it. Let's say, for example, my mom would have a problem with a student at school, okay? Like, he would mouth off to her. So then mom would come home and, complain to my dad about it. And my dad would just, be yelling at her, oh man, what a, blankety blank, and mom would be like, yeah, I know, blankety blank. They'd just be yelling at each other, but like in agreement. But it would sound like they were both angry.
And so what is the impact of that on a small child, like when you're hearing that?
The way you deal and cope with things is through anger, because everything that they coped with was with anger.
Even when they were agreeing.
Exactly.
So I guess, do you feel that set a pattern for your life? Because you've talked to me before and told me that you do have an anger problem. And do you think that that's part of it? That you were not taught correct coping skills and how to communicate properly?
Definitely. The only really good thing I got as far as I feel like in my childhood was as far as one guy, one girl thing and not cheating, because my parents never cheated on each other. But that was like the only really good thing. Other than that, it's just like, dude, it was emotionally just vacant besides negativity. And like I said, as a kid, I wasn't so angry, but I guess I just suppressed it all. And plus, I'm sure there's other situations that I'm pretty sure is like kind of blacked out. What they call it, blackout memory or whatever.
Yeah.
Or blocked memory. I haven't even tried to go there. And as a kid, all of a sudden, as your brain starts developing more, kickstarting through adolescence, then all of a sudden you feel everything else, and all that anger comes out, but you start coping it, depression, anxiety, and every other negative thing without any positive thing in your life, besides the one or two friends you might have that actually do stick around, probably because they feel sorry for you.
You have trouble believing that people would actually like you.
Yeah, I don't like myself. Why would anybody else?
Well, we often hear that narcissists were criticized mercilessly as children. Is that true for you?
Yeah. Like I said, my parents constantly said things to me.
Can you quantify that? What constantly can mean different things to different people. What do you mean by constantly? Can we put a time frame on it? Every day, all day long, a couple times a week?
Once a day, sometimes it would last for hours. And then, of course, my mom or my dad or both would feel bad and buy something for me, I guess you would say. Or they would apologize, and they would buy me something, I guess, to try to make up for it.
Did they always do that?
A lot of times, yeah. I mean, I had a lot of material things, so looking back on it, it doesn't really make up for anything, because, the real thing that you need as a kid, you don't have. Someone once told me that it takes more than just buying things for your kid to be a good parent, and that's very true.
So would you feel that shaped your idea of how to communicate with people? Because the idea that buying something for someone makes everything better, or the idea that receiving material things means love, is something that we see with a lot of narcissists. So what is your opinion of that?
I think we see that with a lot of people in society in general, but that's a different conversation for a different day. As far as narcissists are concerned, I mean, yeah, That's the only way I really know how to try to make up anything to anybody, is to try to like buy them something. I mean, of course I apologize, and I mean, and try to be as sincere as I can about it, but then sure, it sounds fake as shit. So
We often hear that narcissists have impulse or spending problems. Do you notice that you try to buy yourself things to feel better? Does that help you to feel better?
well, when someone buys me things,
No, to buy them for yourself.
yes, material possessions. I mean, I don't have very much, but no, that's why I value things like my cell phone, because I feel like that's the one material possession that I can value.
So what do material possessions really mean to you? They obviously must mean more than what they actually are.
Well, yeah, because I don't have anything else. At least I have that. Because I mean, as a kid, that's what I had.
And what if someone tries to prevent you from buying something to make yourself feel better, or if for some reason you can't do it, then what happens?
Then I continued. Then I get pretty upset about it, and then I start beating myself up about, feeling bad about it, because I know that it's not right. But that's where you get into the duality of things.
Can you explain a little bit about duality? What do you mean by that? That you know that it's wrong, but you're still going to do it, or?
Yeah. Well, like inside, you like morally know it's wrong, but at the same time, you got that little thing inside you that just says, "Oh, this will make you feel better above all."
So feeling better is more important than moral constraints or anything.
Well, yeah, because you feel like crap all the time for who you are. You get desperate to feel better.
And do you think that that all comes from your childhood? We often hear that narcissists internalize criticism and that they will hear it played over and over in their minds, even as adults, like from their parents. Do you find that to be correct?
Oh yeah. If anybody criticizes me over anything, it just puts me in the zone. Dude, I cannot handle it. I try to maintain it, but if it continues, I could feel the escalation inside me rising and rising and rising until all of a sudden I can't take that shit no more. If I'm in an argument with somebody and they say something, if I act irritable or something, and then dude, you know what, dude, you're being a serious asshole. Oh, no, you're an asshole for calling me an asshole now. And it just goes from there.
Are you able to understand that you may be being antagonistic, or is that not something that you can see? Or does it not matter that you're being antagonistic because people still should call you on that? Or what's the process of that?
At the time, no. I don't think I'm being antagonistic, like in the moment. That's where the duality comes in, because when you get into that zone and it's getting hard to cope, and then your stress gets up and you just can't be able to handle it, and then you get that wave that just says, "Don't worry, I got this," and then after that the gloves go off, and you're just, like looking back on it, I feel ashamed about it, because it's not myself, but at the same time, I mean, intellectually it is, but I just don't like to admit that it is.
And why would you not like to admit that? Is that because that is not the idealized person of who you want to be? Or what is the reason why it's hard for you to admit that, yes, I am this person who said these hateful things, or I am this person who threw this thing, or whatever?
Or I'm this person that smacked somebody because they said one thing too many. No, I don't want to be that person. But when it gets to be too much, and then you're not thinking about restraint choices or anything like that. It's like you're on autopilot.
So is that why it's difficult for you to admit, because that's not who you want to be? Or is it difficult for you to see that that's who you are?
Well, anybody that has even 1 gram of morality in them doesn't want to be that. Unless you have absolutely no feelings at all, then you're not going to care about being like that. But no, I don't want to be like that.
What is the reason why you don't want to be like that?
Because when all is said and done, and you're like back to your rational self, or I'm back to my rational self, then I just got all this shame, and you feel bad because you just did something really terrible to somebody that you do care about.
Now, speaking of shame, what does the shame come from? Would you say that the shame is it on behalf of the other person, or is it on your own behalf? Like, are you ashamed because you hurt their feelings, or are you ashamed because this is the type of person that you are?
Both.
Which do you think is stronger? What do you beat yourself up about more?
Both. I'd say it's both about equal. I mean, of course, my self-esteem, or lack thereof, it just gets worse and worse. When you're hurting somebody that you care about, and then you beat yourself up so bad to the point you just want to, perfectly honest, you just want to hang yourself, because first you can't cope with criticism that mommy and daddy told you that you're now hearing from somebody else, and then you lash out, and then you can't handle the criticism you're giving yourself for lashing out, and it just mounts and mounts, and it doesn't stop, and it doesn't stop, and it's every day. Every day.